There was a time you didn't react, not because you were strong, but because you were tired of explaining. You learned to stay quiet, to nod, to absorb disrespect like it was part of the air. They thought you were calm. They thought you were harmless. What they didn't see was the pressure building, the jaw tightening, the anger learning patience. You didn't explode. You didn't scream. You didn't defend yourself. You stored it. Every insult, every doubt, every time they looked at you like you were weak, you swallowed it. You let it sit. You let it burn. That burning, that wasn't rage. That was memory being sharpened. And now they're confused. They ask why you're distant, why you don't laugh the same, why you don't beg for approval anymore. Funny thing, they liked you better when you were quiet and unsure. They liked you manageable because something hardened. You're not emotional, you're controlled, and controlled anger is dangerous. Stay unshaken, not loud, not reactive. You stopped reacting because reaction kept you predictable. You stopped explaining because explanation fed their comfort. You stopped defending yourself because defense assumed they mattered. They don't. Unshaken, like someone who knows exactly what they're worth and doesn't argue about it anymore. They tried to shake you with noise, with opinions, with disrespect, with that subtle tone that says, prove yourself, and you didn't break. You adapted. You learned where to place your attention. You learned who deserved access. You learned that silence is not weakness, it's selection. You don't speak to everyone now. You don't explain to everyone now. You don't react to everything now. That makes them uncomfortable because they can't read you anymore. They can't predict you. They can't shake you out of position. And unpredictability, controlled unpredictability, terrifies people who rely on your old patterns. This isn't rage. This isn't chaos. This isn't emotional revenge. This is resolve. Resolve built from restraint. Resolve built from watching. Resolve built from choosing not to waste energy on reaction. You didn't lose your anger. You refined it. And now you move. Not with announcements, not with threats, not with explanations. You move with action, with consistency, with silence that produces results. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let them misunderstand you. You're past correcting narratives. Because while they're busy interpreting, you're executing. While they're replaying the old version of you, you're building something they don't have access to, without explaining, without apologizing, without asking permission. Stay unshaken. Good. Because the truth is, the moment you stopped reacting, the world didn't suddenly respect you. It tested you harder. It got louder. It pushed closer. It tried new angles, new jokes, new doubts, new little accidental disrespect. just to see if you would crack and return to the old version of you. And you felt it, that pressure in the jaw, that heat behind the eyes, that urge to prove yourself. That urge is the trap. Because proving yourself is still reacting. It's still letting their noise set your direction. It's still letting their opinions write your behavior. And you don't win by reacting better. You win by refusing the game. Stay unshaken means you stop giving people the power to rent space in your head. It means you stop carrying conversations home. It means you stop replaying disrespect like it's a movie you can edit into justice. You don't edit it. You outgrow it. And here's what they never understand about you when you go quiet. Quiet isn't empty. Quiet is preparation. Quiet is where you build your standards without performance. Quiet is where you rehearse nothing and execute everything. Quiet is where you become consistent. Consistency is what they cannot manipulate. They can manipulate moods. They can manipulate pride. They can manipulate attention. But they can't manipulate a person who repeats the work, whether it feels good or not. That's what Unshaken really is. Not being unbothered, being unmovable. Unmovable in your schedule, unmovable in your boundaries, unmovable in your self-respect. Because the world loves flexible people, not for their freedom, for their convenience. Be understanding. Don't take it seriously. It's not that deep. Those phrases aren't wisdom. They're tools. Tools to keep you easy. And you used to be easy, didn't you? You used to explain. You used to soften. You used to smile through things that should have been addressed. You used to sacrifice your own clarity just to keep the room comfortable. That's why they liked you. Not because you were kind, because you were adjustable. But you're not adjustable anymore. You're not available for disrespect anymore. You're not available for chaos anymore. You're not available for people who only love you when you're small. And yes, when you stop being adjustable, you lose things. You lose fake peace. You lose shallow approval. You lose invitations that were actually distractions. Good. Let them go. Because what you gain is something they can't understand. Internal stability. The kind that doesn't depend on compliments. The kind that doesn't collapse when someone disagrees. The kind that doesn't need to be seen to be real. Stay unshaken means this. When they provoke you, you don't rush to respond. You let silence do the work. You let your results answer. You let your discipline speak. Because discipline is louder than any argument, especially over time. They'll call you cold. Let them. They'll call you changed. Let them. They'll say you think you're better. Let them. You don't owe anyone the old version of you. And when your own mind tries to shake you, when it whispers doubt, when it brings old memories, when it tries to pull you into reaction, that's when you prove unshaken where it matters most. Not in public, in private. In the morning when you want to delay. In the work block when boredom hits. In the moment you want to reach for comfort and call it rest. Unshaken means you don't break your standard just because you're uncomfortable. You don't betray your plan just because your mood is loud. You don't hand the steering wheel to impulse. You already know what impulse does with your life. It spends it, so you don't react. No shouting this time. Shouting is easy. Silence is harder. Because silence leaves nowhere to hide. No theatrics, no adrenaline, just you and what you tolerate. Stay unshaken doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you stop letting feeling decide. You feel it, and you remain. You remain when the room shifts. You remain when their tone changes. You remain when they try to pull a reaction out of you like a trick. They'll try the old buttons first. The sarcasm, the doubt, the little disrespect that's just a joke. It's never just a joke. It's a test. And you used to answer every test like you owed them a response. You used to explain yourself like your identity was up for debate. You used to leak energy into arguments that didn't build anything. That's what you stop now. Unshaken means you don't rush. You don't rush to prove. You don't rush to defend. You don't rush to fix how you're perceived. Because perception is unstable. Standards are not. The strongest shift you can make is this. You stop trying to win moments, and you start winning patterns. Moments are emotional. Patterns are structural. A pattern is a wake time you respect. A pattern is a work block you protect. A pattern is a limit you don't negotiate. A pattern is how you stop being available to chaos. They can't shake a person with patterns. They can only shake people with moods. And you've been living by mood long enough to know what it costs. Stay unshaken means you stop taking the bait. Not because you're afraid, because you're disciplined. Discipline is choosing your reaction in advance. It's deciding what you will and will not respond to. It's refusing to let someone else write your nervous system. You don't need to be loud to be firm. You need to be consistent. Consistent boundaries, consistent effort, consistent self-respect, consistent returns when you slip. And yes, you will slip. You will have a day where you react. You will have a moment where you drift. That's not the end. The end is when you make it a story, when you dramatize it, when you punish yourself and call it accountability. Don't. Reset, return. Unshaken isn't never failing. It's recovering fast without self-destruction. Let your calm become intimidating. Let your silence become a boundary. Let your results become your reply. Stay unshaken, quietly. Because the most dangerous person in the room is not the loudest. It's the one who can feel everything and still choose the next right action. That's you now. Keep that. Good. Now comes the part most people never practice long enough to own. Staying steady when nothing is dramatic. No big moment, no applause, no crisis to force you into discipline. Just ordinary minutes where your old self tries to quietly return. That's what Unshaken really tests. Not how you act when you're fired up, how you act when you're neutral. Neutral mornings, neutral afternoons, evenings where you're not inspired and not destroyed, just tempted. Tempted to drift because drifting feels familiar. familiar is the real enemy. Familiar is what your nervous system calls safe, even when it's slowly ruining you. Familiar scrolling, familiar delay, familiar excuses that sound reasonable. Reasonable is how you betray yourself without feeling guilty. Stay unshaken means you start catching the reasonable lies, the polite ones, the ones that don't look dangerous until you add them up. I'll start after I check one thing. I'll do it later. I'm not fully awake. I'll be more productive tonight. All of it sounds harmless. None of it is. Because your life isn't destroyed by one big mistake. It's eroded by tiny permissions. Here's the simplest way to stay unshaken. You decide what you do in the first 5 minutes before your mind starts improvising. Not the whole day, the first 5 minutes. In those 5 minutes, you choose one action that signals direction. Open the work. Write the first line. Start the timer. Put your body in motion. Because your mind follows movement. It does not lead it. And that's where your anger used to fail you. You'd get angry, you'd promise, you'd swear you'd change, and then you'd wait for the feeling to carry you. Feelings don't carry, they visit. So now your calm becomes the weapon. Quiet standards, quiet boundaries, quiet execution. When someone tries to shake you with a comment, you don't flinch. When someone tries to bait you into proving yourself, you don't hurry. You let the moment pass without giving it your energy. You save that energy for the one place it actually changes your life, the work you keep postponing. Because the truth is, most of the shaking comes from inside you, not other people. Your own impatience, your own need to feel progress immediately, your own habit of abandoning something the moment it gets slow. Slow is not failure. Slow is the tax you pay for real growth. And if you can't pay it, you don't get the product. That's maturity, paying the tax without complaining. Stay unshaken means you stop measuring your day by emotion. You measure it by adherence. Did you keep the block? Did you protect the boundary? Did you return when you slipped? That's the scoreboard now, not mood. And when you don't keep it, when you drift, here's how you stay unshaken. You don't spiral. You don't punish yourself. You don't turn it into identity. You do the most dangerous thing a weak pattern can't survive. You reset immediately. Not tomorrow, immediately. One correction right now. One small return. One clean action that says, I'm still in control. That's what unshaken looks like in real life. Not poetry, not speeches, micro corrections. You don't let 1 hour decide the day. You don't let one day decide the week. You don't let one weak moment become a tradition. And yes, people will notice when you stop being easy to move. Your silence will start to feel like a boundary. Your calm will start to feel like authority. Some will test it. Some will mock it. Some will try to pull the old you back like it benefits them. Let them try. The hardest part about staying unshaken is that it looks ordinary. No one claps for restraint. No one rewards you immediately for being consistent. and that's why most people never become it. They want visible progress fast. They want proof now. They want a feeling that confirms they're changing. But discipline doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with quiet receipts. Receipts like, you started on time, you kept the block, you finished the unit, you shut the door on the easy exit. That's why unshaken people seem different. They're not emotional about basics. They're loyal to basics. Loyalty to basics is what rebuilds self-trust, and self-trust is what stabilizes the mind. Without self-trust, your head is noisy. With self-trust, your head gets quieter. You don't need perfect focus. You need dependable focus. Dependable focus means you show up even when you're not inspired. You continue even when it's slow. You return even when you slipped. Slipping is not the enemy. Making it a story is. A story becomes identity, and identity becomes permission. I always mess it up. I can't stay consistent. I'm just not disciplined. That's not truth. That's rehearsal. You repeat those lines long enough and your brain obeys them. Not because they're accurate, because they're repeated. So you replace the script. I reset fast. I keep the block. I return. I don't negotiate standards. That script is boring. Good. Boring scripts build stable lives. Stay unshaken also means you stop chasing intensity as proof you're serious. Seriousness is quiet. Seriousness is scheduled. If you have to hype yourself up every time, you're not disciplined. You're dependent on emotion. Emotion is unreliable. Schedule is not. So you stop asking the day how it feels. You tell the day what happens. And when your mind tries to interrupt, when it suggests detours, when it offers quick breaks, you don't argue. You label it noise. Then you continue. You're not fighting the world. You're not fighting other people. You're fighting the part of you that wants relief more than results. That part will always exist. The goal is not to destroy it. The goal is to lead it. Leadership is telling yourself the truth without cruelty. Leadership is holding a boundary without drama. Leadership is staying calm while you do the hard thing. Calm is what scares people who only know chaos. They can't read it. They can't predict it. They can't manipulate it. And your old life, your old pattern, was easy to manipulate because it was reactive. Reactivity is predictable, so you stop reacting. Not because you're numb, because you're deliberate. Deliberate people don't waste attention. Deliberate people don't let the first impulse decide the hour. Deliberate people don't let the first mood decide the day. They decide once. Then they execute. Execution is the quiet weapon. Execution is what makes you dangerous to your old habits. Execution is what makes unshaken real. Not words, not vibes, not promises. So tomorrow, when you feel the first pull, the first urge to drift, you do one small thing that proves stability. You start the block. You do the first 5 minutes. You stay long enough for the urge to weaken. And if you want a rule that will save you, never leave at the peak of discomfort. Stay 2 minutes longer. Let the wave pass. There's a strange moment that comes after discipline starts working. Not excitement, not pride, distance. Distance from your old reactions, distance from the urge to explain yourself, distance from the chaos that once felt like home. At first, that distance feels uncomfortable, like you've stepped outside a room you lived in for years. The noise is still there, but it's not inside you anymore. This is where most people panic. They mistake calm for emptiness. They rush back to noise just to feel something familiar. You won't, not anymore. Because now you recognize the difference between stimulation and stability. Stimulation excites, stability holds, and holding is what you needed all along. You were never meant to live in constant reaction. You were meant to move with intention, to decide once and stop renegotiating. Stay unshaken means your day no longer depends on how it begins emotionally. It depends on what you enforce. Enforcement replaces hope. Hope is passive. Standards are active. You don't wake up asking, how do I feel? You wake up asking, what is required? That shift alone rewires you. Required doesn't care about mood. Required cares about outcome. And outcomes accumulate quietly. One kept block, one finished task, one evening you didn't sabotage. Over time, those outcomes do something dangerous. They remove your excuses. They leave you face to face with capability. Capability is intimidating because now you can't say, I couldn't. You have to say, I chose. And choice carries weight. That weight is responsibility, not pressure, ownership. Ownership changes how you move. You don't rush, you don't flinch, you don't overreact. You move deliberately, like someone who knows time is limited and attention is expensive. You stop explaining delays. You stop narrating your struggle. You stop performing growth. You just grow. And yes, some people will feel the shift. They'll ask, what changed? They'll joke about you being serious now. They'll test the old buttons. You don't press them. You don't even look down. Because unshaken isn't defiance. It's indifference to noise. Noise needs reaction to survive. Without reaction, it starves. That's how you win without fighting. And inside, something settles. The constant self-argument fades. You stop convincing yourself to start. You stop begging yourself to continue. You just do. Doing becomes normal. Normal becomes identity. Identity becomes unshakable. That's when people say you're different. They're right. Different because you don't rush emotions. Different because you don't chase validation. Different because you don't need to be seen to be steady. And the best part? You don't feel heroic. You feel grounded. Grounded people don't fall easily. They don't drift far. They always know where to return. Return is the skill you mastered, and that skill keeps paying. So when the day gets long, when effort feels dull, when the old pull whispers, you don't answer it. You answer your standard. Stay unshaken. There is a quiet confidence that comes after repetition. Not the loud kind, not the kind that needs to announce itself. The kind that settles into your posture and stays. You stop checking for approval. You stop scanning faces for reactions. You stop adjusting yourself to fit the room. Because you already decided who you are when no one was watching. And decisions made in private are heavier than opinions made in public. That weight doesn't slow you down, it anchors you. Anchored people don't get pulled by every wave. They don't chase every opportunity. They choose. Choice simplifies everything. One direction, fewer distractions, less noise in the head. You begin to notice how much energy you used to waste, explaining, reacting, defending things that didn't deserve defense. That energy comes back to you now, quietly, reliably. With that energy, you build. Not all at once, not dramatically, brick by brick. You build routines that don't collapse under mood. You build habits that don't depend on praise. You build days that have shape. Shape is underrated. Shape creates momentum. Momentum doesn't feel exciting at first. It feels steady. Steady is what lasts. Steady is what compounds. Steady is what turns effort into identity. And identity removes doubt. You don't argue with who you are. There will still be moments of pull, moments where the old habits whisper. They don't disappear overnight, but they get quieter, less convincing, because you proved something to yourself, not with words, with repetition. Proof beats promises, every time. When you wake up now, there's less debate, less bargaining, more movement. Not rushed, intentional. Intentional living looks boring from the outside, but inside, it's peaceful. Peace doesn't mean nothing challenges you. It means nothing controls you. You still feel pressure. You still feel fatigue. You still feel temptation. The difference is, you don't hand them the wheel. You choose where your attention goes. You choose when you engage. You choose when you walk away. Choice is the quiet luxury you earned. And when setbacks come, because they will, you don't collapse. You adjust. You continue. Continuation is the mark of someone unshaken, not perfection. Continuation. You don't need to feel strong to continue. You need to keep moving. So you keep the block, you keep the boundary, you keep the standard. Day after day, quietly, without needing to be seen. That's how you stay unshaken. There's a moment you don't talk about. The moment after discipline becomes routine. when the struggle is no longer dramatic, but it's still there. This is where most people relapse, not because they're weak, but because the fight no longer feels important. The noise fades, the urgency softens, and the mind starts whispering again. You've earned a break. You can loosen up now. You don't need to be so strict. That's not recovery talking. That's erosion. Stay unshaken means you don't confuse stability with permission. You don't dismantle the structure just because it stopped hurting. You respect what's holding you upright. Because the habits that save you quietly will also leave quietly if you stop guarding them. Guarding doesn't mean obsession. It means awareness. Awareness of how easily drift returns. Drift doesn't knock. It slips in through comfort, through just this once. You already know how that story ends. You've lived it enough times. Comfort first, consequences later. So you don't romanticize ease anymore. You question it. Does this serve what I'm building, or does it just feel good right now? That question changes everything. You don't ask it angrily. You ask it honestly. Honesty is what keeps you unshaken. Not optimism, not hope. Hope waits. Honesty acts. Acting doesn't always feel powerful. Sometimes it feels dull. Dull mornings, dull work blocks, dull repetitions. That's the cost of depth. And depth is expensive for a reason. Depth changes you slowly. It rewires patience. It quiets urgency. It removes the need to rush. You stop chasing shortcuts. You stop believing in hacks. You stop expecting life to bend for you. Instead, you bend yourself into something reliable, something solid. Solid people don't need to announce progress. Progress shows in how they move. You move slower now, but cleaner. You speak less, but clearer. You don't rush decisions. You don't overshare plans. You don't invite opinions into unfinished work. That silence, it protects momentum. Momentum is fragile in the early stages. That's why you keep it private. Like a flame you shield from wind. Once it's strong, it doesn't need protection anymore. This is where confidence actually comes from, not from how you feel, but from how often you've kept going. Kept going when it was boring. Kept going when it was slow. Kept going when no one noticed. Kept going when quitting would have been easier. That record lives inside you now, and it changes how you carry yourself. You don't panic when plans shift. You don't collapse when days go wrong. You adjust without drama. Drama needs attention. You don't feed it anymore. You've learned something important. Staying unshaken isn't about resisting the world. It's about not abandoning yourself. Not abandoning your time. Not abandoning your standards. Not abandoning the work you promised to do. That loyalty, it's rare. And rare things attract pressure. People will test you. Situations will tempt you. Not because you're wrong, but because you're different. Difference unsettles people who live by habit. Discipline exposes excuses. Calm exposes chaos. You don't need to confront it. You just keep moving. That's how you stay unshaken. Not by resisting every wave, but by being too grounded to be pulled. Repetition of showing up when nothing feels urgent. Repetition of choosing the same standard when nobody is checking. Repetition of returning without resentment. This is where staying unshaken becomes subtle, not impressive, effective. You stop measuring days by emotion. You stop labeling them good or bad. You measure them by alignment. Alignment doesn't require perfection. It requires honesty. Did you do what you said you would do? Enough to keep trust alive. Enough is a powerful word. It keeps you moving without breaking you. You don't chase maximum output anymore. You protect minimum standards. And minimum standards, kept daily, build maximum stability. Stability changes how you handle pressure. Pressure becomes information, not a threat. When pressure rises, you don't rush. You slow the response. You choose the next right action. Slowing down the response is how you keep control. Control is quiet. You also stop needing closure from people. You stop waiting for apologies that won't come. You stop expecting understanding from those committed to misunderstanding. Expectation was the chain. Release is the freedom. Release doesn't mean forgetting. It means you stop carrying it into today's decisions. You don't let yesterday vote on today. Today votes for itself now, with action. Action simplifies thought. Thought clarifies action. They support each other instead of fighting. That's balance. Not comfort, balance. Comfort asks you to pause indefinitely. Balance asks you to continue responsibly. You chose the harder one. Harder at first, easier later. Later is where most people never arrive. They quit during the quiet middle. You didn't. The quiet middle taught you patience. Patience taught you pace. Pace is what keeps you unshaken when progress is slow. Pace is what keeps you steady when motivation fades. Pace outlasts intensity. You stopped sprinting toward outcomes. You started walking toward mastery. Mastery doesn't feel heroic. It feels familiar. Familiar in the best way. You sit down and begin. You hit resistance and stay. You finish without ceremony. Finishing rewires the brain. It teaches completion. Completion teaches confidence. Confidence without noise. Confidence without comparison. Comparison used to shake you. Now it barely registers. You're busy keeping your own word. Keeping your word to yourself is the core. Everything else is decoration. When doubt appears now, it's different. It doesn't spiral. It asks a question. What's the next step? You answer with movement. Movement dissolves doubt faster than reassurance ever did. You learn that the hard way. Hard lessons stick. That's why they matter. You no longer need to protect your calm aggressively. It protects itself through routine, through boundaries that don't bend easily. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. You filter what enters your day. You filter who gets access to your attention. You filter which thoughts deserve action. Filtering reduces noise. Reduced noise deepens focus. Focus deepens character. Character stabilizes life. Stability makes you unshakable. Not because nothing touches you, but because nothing tips you over. You still feel. You still care. You just don't surrender control.